So breaking news here, Andre Cronje has left the building. About a week after his Twitter account was first pulled down, account no longer exists at Andre Cronje Tech. We get this announcement here today from Anton Nell, one of his core contributors, another Fantom chain OG. Andre and I have decided we're closing the chapter of contributing to the DeFi and crypto space. There's around 25 apps and services that we are terminating on the 3rd of April 2022. Notable ones: Yearn, Keeper, Multichain, Chainlist, Solidly, just launched in the last week, and Brive.curve.finance. So a big miss here for the crypto space at large, I would suggest, as one of the key innovators and builders in the space is taking what seems to be an extended break or even not coming back for good. Saying you're closing the chapter on crypto and DeFi does seem pretty damning, but of course this may have been said in an emotional state and potentially they will come back later. But from what they've stated, it does seem like they are out for good. So unlike previous building in DeFi sucks rage quits, this is not a knee-jerk reaction, they say, to the hate received from releasing a project. That is referencing Solidly, which has had a bit of a ropey start to say the least, but a decision that has been coming for a while. Thank you to everyone who has supported us over the past few years. So it does seem like they are closing this chapter for good here. So CoinDesk have covered this one. Dozens of tokens tumble as prolific developer Andre Cronje calls it quits. Full page spread here for him. Prices for dozens of tokens are plunging across the Fantom ecosystem, with the FTM token itself down considerably, around $1.40 as of filming. And as they cover here, this comes off the back that he had pulled his Twitter account and recently over on LinkedIn updated it to reflect that he no longer was an advisor for Fantom Foundation. It says up until February of 2022, and of course we're now in March. The recently released protocol, the AMM, Solidly tumbled as much as 75% on the day. I actually had an alert set for around $1 on that, and it was triggered earlier, so I rushed to see what was up. And then from that, I found out all of this bad news here that Andre has left the crypto space at large. Likewise, tokens across the Fantom ecosystem are also down big. Boo down 19%, Liquid Driver 17%, Tomb 22%, Geist down 15% respectively, even though Andre was not known to be significantly involved in any of these developments. So even though he wasn't involved in loads of these projects on Fantom, he had such a big reputation in Fantom, one of the key thought leaders, a true innovator in the space, and someone that was looked up to over on Fantom. This, of course, will leave a big hole and really big shoes to fill here. But it says here, from a practical perspective, however, many have noted that Cronje's exit will not impact the operations of many of the protocols he was involved with. While Nell's farewell post noted that many websites will be shutting down as a result of the pair's decision to step away, these sites are merely front ends for largely autonomous contracts Cronje deployed months or even years ago. So immutable code that is out there open sourced means that we can just have new front ends pop up for these. So the initial tweet from Nell there, which suggests everything's coming down in April, that is just the front end. So this is the beauty of crypto. It's not like a Web2 company. They close up shop and another one can't spring back up. There will be plenty here replicated for these various protocols. And as it says, teams have already begun announcing the launch of new front ends for interacting with these great contracts. So the code does live on, and that is the beauty of open source technology and a real benefit here for Web3 and crypto. So one of the biggest protocols he was involved with was Yearn Finance, YFI. Back a 2020 DeFi original project and one that made major waves. And as you can see, it was already selling off going into this event. And then of course we had the news here. It was around 19, 20K and it dropped all the way down to around 18K and it's starting to bounce back and get a bit of recovery. Now, one of the reasons for this is that Andre actually wasn't that active with this protocol. So this is Banteg. I believe he's the lead developer over on Yearn and a real OG in the space and someone people look up to in high regard. So he's saying this: people burying YFI. Do you realize Andre hasn't worked on it for over a year? And even if he did, there are 50 full-time people and around 140 part-time contributors to back things up. i.e. this protocol is not going to die just because Andre is leaving the space. There are other people still contributing to this, and the protocol simply works. It's a yield generating protocol. So the chart here paints a picture of market actors just shedding their positions off the back of a news event here, which is a little bit unwarranted. Fantom Foundation here, we're extremely grateful for Andre for all he did for the crypto space as a whole. However, they reiterate Fantom is and never was a one-man team, and there are over 40 people currently working at Fantom. So a lot of people were suggesting that it's dead and buried now. I think that is a ridiculous thing to say. The blockchain will live on. This will be a big miss for the blockchain in general and may slow some developments, but over time, if you think about where we are in terms of crypto adoption, there will be many thousands of people entering the crypto space who will never even know who Andre Cronje is and be using Fantom, its network and ecosystem of applications without a care in the world as to who really started the chain off at the beginning, which of course was Andre. So the DeFi Edge put together a little bit of a thread here explaining some of the issues that have occurred recently. One of the big ones here was the fact that they were set to release solidly, had a huge amount of hype wave behind it as well. And Danny was really on cloud 9 back here, a really popular figure in the space. And things just seemed to really unravel from here early in this year. So two true DeFi builders and people with big reputations got together to build this out. We had a few community calls, things were going swimmingly well. And then of course, Danny's reputation took a huge hit with the Sifu issue. If you don't know what that is, please do go and check it out for yourself. No time to cover it here, but this Sifu gate caused a huge uproar in the crypto space and really threw into question Danny's reputation as well. And so we saw a load of the Danny projects really sell off. This therefore left Andre to deal with Solid on his own, a big burden, not the kind of guy who was really at the forefront of things and would have been a good person to market a project. Danny would have been a lot better at that, but Andre providing mainly the brains behind it. But now he becomes front and center of this project, and this means a lot of pressure, PR, marketing, all those kinds of things, maybe decisions he previously hadn't needed to make, he was now making. And I think this would have added to a lot of stress in his own life. And of course, you can kind of see the burnout that has occurred from the back of this and is related to him stepping away from crypto here, possibly for good. Part of the Solid launch was a little bit botched. We know that there was these incentives for the top 20 protocols by TVL. Then you had these new DAOs just coming in, soaking up huge TVL to get involved. A lot of people were pissed off with how this all went. And then even when it did launch, there were bugs, confusions, people weren't happy with UI. I saw various builders on other protocols saying they weren't ready. And so what started to be something with a real bit of hype behind it, a really great looking protocol that would bring huge liquidity to the Fantom ecosystem, started to turn rather sour here. And I think this was really the straw that broke the camel's back. So that brings us to today, where we're seeing huge red numbers across the board for the Fantom ecosystem, alike of Tomb down around 19-20%, Spooky down around 20%, Beethoven, Geist, all of these protocols at real bargain basement prices right now. I'm not saying go ahead and buy these, but they have sold off, I would say, a bit unfairly, especially the ones that aren't directly linked to Andre, but are just part of the ecosystem. These have all got full-time teams working on them, working hard and ensuring that they do hit their long-term objectives and follow through with roadmap goals. You can see the likes of Scream here, 37% down for the day. But in terms of Andre's own projects here, Keeper, for example, bit of a sell-off here. It was already declining from around the early January time and was now at around $600 this morning, now down to around 450. You can see the volume coming in there. The likes of a multi-chain links to Andre here as well. That was around $14, now down to around 12. Again, big volume in here, indicative of a sell-off. And then the main source of headaches as of late, Solidly here. It's a hyperinflationary cryptocurrency, and so it was no real shock to see this kind of degradation in price. But then of course we had an even bigger sell-off over the last 24 hours, going from around $3 to sub $1. It went down to 80 cents at the lows here. One thing to note on this is that if the protocol works as intended, then this is a protocol that will continue to churn out revenue if it is appropriately utilized. So there could be opportunities within this, but I really would sit, wait and see what happens here. I wouldn't really go aping in personally due to the market conditions being so bad. We're already seeing liquidity leave the crypto space, but obviously now at an alarming rate for these projects that are getting hit with major FUD and issues. So of course, when your major ecosystem token and a load of the coins within it drop, the TVL drops 14 billion all the way down to around 8. And you can see over the last 24 hours here, a huge negative change in TVL for a huge number of projects. TVL wise down 30-40% plus here. So I do think this is really a part of burnout and stress from a whole catalog of events that have taken place over the last few months. It's not been a rosy start to 2022 here, and having some of the major builders in the space leaving the space is not good for the crypto ecosystem at large. So here we have the thoughts of Austin from FTM Alerts. He says this, rather touching: since I launched FTM Alerts a year ago, I've had the chance to get to know almost all the major developers on FTM to some degree, and I can tell you without hesitation that we have some of the smartest, most talented, and forward-thinking brains working on these projects. Andre contributed to all of our lives at a legendary level. I would say that to many of us, he holds a near hero status, and I'm sad to see him go, and at the same time, happy to see us moving forwards a more autonomous future where our growth will rely on our merits alone. Nothing has changed with any of the Fantom projects you've come to love. We have the best team at Fantom and many of the best developers in the space, and are one of the most fun and supportive communities in cryptocurrency. To Andre, whatever you choose to do after this, I hope you find a lot of peace and happiness. You certainly deserve it. And to everyone else, it's business as usual. This will blow over in a few days, and we'll go back to shitposting and blaming the Bogdanovs. Send Andre some love. He was and is one of the greatest contributors crypto has ever seen. So really great remarks there from Austin of FTM Alerts, and this really underlines how big a deal Andre was, not just for Fantom but the crypto space at large. When you see the original tweets and realize this affects around 25 applications directly, can you honestly list 25 apps quickly off the top of your head? I'm pretty sure you can't. So his roots into the crypto space run very, very deep here. Do check out FTM Alerts and subscribe to their channel. Austin is a great guy producing some awesome content over on Fantom. So this whole situation leaves us here with a big red candle from Fantom, down from around 170 and change to around $1.42. And now I believe is a good time to start mapping out potential entries for this one over the coming months. Hopefully we'll get some positive news regarding Russia and Ukraine, and potentially not seeing as much quantitative tightening as expected due to the situation over there. But I would be looking for some rather deep retracements on a lot of cryptocurrencies and some of these potential older levels that we saw back in 2021 to potentially be hit. Something like here, which is around 80 odd cents for Fantom, certainly not off the table in my eyes, and somewhere that I would possibly be looking to maybe make an entry, as I do think this will be a key DeFi blockchain for the future. But of course, when a big situation like this occurs and an event unfolds, price reacts negatively. But I don't think in the current market climate, it's wise to just continually buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip, as some of these older levels may well come into play sooner than people expect. And there's even levels down here at around 15, 16 cents that in worst case scenario, black swan event kind of stuff, we could come and visit. So I hope you found this update useful and informative. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know if you're still bullish on Fantom for the long run, or does this really hold back the protocol? I'm seeing a lot of split decision online. People saying that the chain is now going to severely suffer due to one of the biggest leaders leaving. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.